And welcome back, everyone, to episode 70 of the Sports Coverage Podcast. My name is Andrew, back alongside my co-host Vince, and today we get to welcome a very special guest, Bobby Skinner of the Giants Nation Show. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bobby.
Thank you guys for having me on. That's 70 episodes. How often are you doing the show?
So we used to do it once weekly. We would film every Saturday, but we've both obviously moved up to high school now, and it's been getting a little busy. So we're trying to get one or two a month now, and especially as we're going towards summer now, we're really doing our best to get some good guests on and stuff. So you're the first one of the summer where we're really going to try to push a lot of stuff out. So thank you again for coming on.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, so if you couldn't tell with Bobby here today and my outfit, we're going to be talking a lot about the New York Giants, which you know that I've had a lot of fun talking about in the last couple of years. And Vince down there in Miami is going to do his best to keep up. I don't know if he really wants to talk about the Dolphins after the season they had, but, you know, us Giants fans can't really talk about that either. But we're going to get right into it. With OTA starting and a pretty successful NFL draft season now coming to a close, there's a lot of news about potential play calling changes out of Giants camp. And I know, Bobby, I've gotten to hear some of your comments on it over the past week. But on the podcast here with us, I just want to get your opinion on Mike Kafka potentially making that transition back into the play calling, because we know Dable took that role in the last couple of years. Just what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's funny enough. The thing I made us wait like 10 seconds to pause for was a picture of Kafka with like the walkie-talkie from OTAs. I like the move. It's not like you're removing Brian Dable from the offensive game plan. It's still his offense, right? It's still all the verbiage that Brian Dable's installed. It's still Brian Dable's playbook. It's just Mike Kafka is the one operating it. And I think that's when the Giants offense has been at its best, whether it was, late 2023 or the whole first year that they were there together. And it allows Brian Dable to be the head coach of the full team. It's, Joe Shane has said that he prefers the offense coordinator to be calling the plays. So I'm a fan of it. There's like little details of why I like Kafka as a play caller more than Dable, but I just think the offense flows better through Kafka with Brian Dable's vision.
Yeah, I completely agree. And with some of the new additions that we'll get into in a second, there's the obvious ones. But then with a lot of these young guys like Dart and Hyatt and Neighbors and all these guys that are coming in, I just think that it's going to end up working better with Kafka at the helm there. And Dable can potentially focus on some other areas of need, especially during games as the season goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, and head coaching is sometimes we let offensive coaches and defensive coaches off the hook for things because their offense is decent or their defense is decent, but that's not the job title is being a coordinator. That was their previous job title. So I'm just a fan of that. And again, if Brian Dable wanted to call plays, why are we not forcing but keeping Mike Kafka around? Wouldn't you want to get somebody who you trusted a little more than a guy that you stripped that play calling duty from?
Exactly.
I kind of just want to talk about the quarterback room here. James Winston threw an interception on day one of OTAs to Belton, who has also been looking on fire. But my question is, how can Winston prove his spot as the main quarterback in that room?
I don't think he can. I think he's just kind of the backup quarterback, and I think they gave him a 2-year deal on purpose. Well, obviously they did it on purpose, but I think they set it up as all right, this is our backup to Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson gets injured early on and our rookie QB is not there, or we're not able to get that rookie QB, say the Saints drafted Jackson Dart 9th overall or something like that. And then it's also when they did draft their quarterback in Jackson Dart, well, now they already have their backup quarterback in place for next year because of that 2-year deal with Russell Wilson being as a 1-year deal. But Jameis is what he is. I don't think you're getting some new version. And like you said, he's thrown 2 interceptions to Dane Belton in 2 days. That has been reported on in OTAs. He's going to throw interceptions. Now he's going to push the ball down the field. He's going to test the limits of your offense, but he's also going to go over those limits. So I don't think he can do anything to be the guy in the room. He's just kind of sandwiched in between the stopgap and the hopeful future for the Giants and Dart.
Yeah, and just real quick, you mentioned kind of how he's already thrown those 2 interceptions. That's kind of something I wanted to go more in depth into. When we signed him, of course, there were a lot of posts and things from hopeful fans that are talking about how Jameis is just going to pound the ball down the field every single drive, no matter if it's going to be an interception, whatever. They have Malik Neighbors and things like that, and his offense and his play style is going to flow better with kind of the team we have assembled right now. Do you think the Giants are going to try to do anything about changing that pattern of interceptions he's had over the past couple of years, or do you think that he's just going to ride with it throughout his tenure?
I don't think there is any change in Jameis. Jameis knows what he is, right? He doesn't have these, these ideas of being a starting QB. And the only time he ever didn't turn over the ball was with Sean Payton, the one year where it felt like he was the plan for them in New Orleans before he got injured. And everyone looks, oh, well, he can do it. But people forget to look at he was throwing for like 140 yards per game, which was, worse than the NFL at that time. So that's, you're taking away all the good of Jameis if you're getting rid of the turnovers. I think, and that's what he is. He's a backup quarterback. He's someone that you're hoping to play 4 games maximum in the season. And in those 4 games, he's going to put up 1,200 to 1,400 passing yards and allow your receivers to make plays and put points on the board. It's just, it's not if he turns over the ball. It's will those turnovers be, turnovers that cost you the game. And more times than not for Jameis, they have been. But you also get a game where he throws for 3 touchdowns and 400 yards and gets you a surprise victory.
I mean, I just want to comment on that really quick. I do think Jameis Winston really just brings like a vibe to the locker room rather than him as a player. Like his play style is okay, but I think he really just brings like a vibe to the locker room as a whole. And maybe that's not the reason why the Giants got him, but I think he's just a really good mentor in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, he definitely is like a good locker room guy, and you've heard players, players already say that. I don't know. I like the way he pushes the limits, and you need to push the limits in the NFL. But I also, if I was Brian Dable, I'd be like, if you play like that guy, you're not going to last, long term as a starter or be a franchise QB for some team.
I mean, I think that's why they got Russ, though. You know what I
mean?
That's
exactly. So they kind of had their cake and eat it too, where you get the the Jameis Winston, all the good stuff of him, and you're hopefully you're not opening yourselves up to a full game or full half of the season with Jameis, which that's when it's disastrous. When it's a 4-game spark when someone gets injured or whatever, then it's like that's when you do like Jameis. But when you have to rely on him for more than a handful of games, is an issue. So I agree. That's why they got Russ. What will be interesting with Jameis is not what his role is. He is the backup QB. What will be interesting is if Russ struggles, would they go to Jameis before going to Dart? Because he's he's QB2 on depth chart. Will they skip over for their first round QB if, let's say, they're 2-7 after week 9?
I don't think so. Honestly, I think they'll go to Dart. If I'm the Giants, I would not let Winston lead my franchise currently. I mean, listen, Andrew, you can say all you want. They're in the pits, just like the Dolphins. Look, I think you really just got to go with a young guy. If after you try with the vet, I think you just got to go young. And I think that's how a lot of teams are going nowadays. We've seen it recently. But I do think they'll probably go with Dart if, the Russell Wilson era doesn't last like they wanted it to.
Yeah, eventually they will go to Dart. My question is, do they do like a 3-game buffer with Jameis? Like, let's say they're 2-7 and Russ they want to move on from Russ. Do they give Jameis 3 and then give Dart 5 games to finish the season, or do they go straight to Dart and give him that 8-game sample size? I tend to agree with you. As at that point, I would let's see what we have with Dart. Let's learn a little bit on the fly with him. In a whole offseason and 9 weeks as a backup should be enough time to get some basics down and be confident enough to go and learn through some mistakes. But again, they're going to be the ones who truly know how ready Dart is.
Yeah, that'll probably be a week-to-week decision. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's progression at the end of the day. And I think like with Dart, obviously getting the reps is going to be amazing for him going forward in his career. And I think like the sooner he can start, the sooner he's going to, develop. And I think that's what the Giants need. And, obviously we saw Daniel Jones take that role right away. So I do think like Dart should obviously not start at the beginning of the year. And I do think like Jameis Winston, would obviously be an okay addition to start if, say, the Russell Wilson era doesn't last. But I just think like you said, like those weeks, maybe like they're 2-6, for example, I think Dart should start just for reps. And that's just my opinion. Yeah,
I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah, and I'm just going to kind of skip ahead a little bit in what I have kind of written down for Giants news. Phil Simms came in and made a comment about Dart, and he said that it would just be stupid if they don't play him for an extended period of time this year. And you can kind of see 100%. That all 3 of us here share that sentiment, where I think that Dart needs to start getting these reps early, especially kind of building up the confidence there. And I also wrote down pretty early in OTAs on day 1 or 2. There was a pretty quick interception to Micah McFadden where he was just struggling to grasp some of the drills that were being run there. And Tommy DeVito, interestingly enough, was in there with him trying to get him adjusted to that situation. And I don't want to go into all Tommy DeVito requesting trades or whatever, stuff like that now. But I think that it's going to be more beneficial for Dart to get as used to this offense as possible pretty early on. And I do think that he's going to end up being in a situation to play pretty well. I hope he's not going to be in a situation to play, but I think that eventually when the time may come to that it's going to be the right choice for him to end up playing.
Yeah, and again, like at the end of the day, he needs to play to get better, right? There's learning, there's things you can learn on the bench, but once you get kind of through some of those elementary parts of it, then you need to start seeing live action. You're just not going to see that you're not going to see that as a backup in practice throughout the season. The team is way too focused on the other opponent. You're just not getting that attention. You can do little things here and there. They'll have, the assistant QB coach, spending extra time with him. But in reality, there's no experience like the live bullets that you'll get on a Sunday.
100%. I kind of want to go back to what I was mentioning about earlier with Dane Belton. He's obviously been looking very strong with, obviously 2 interceptions so far in camp. Do you think he can be like a key guy rather than just like a role player on this defense?
No, I think he is just because you have Javon Holland and Tyler Nubin, who
right. I mean, Holland is. I love him.
Yeah, Holland, they paid money, so he's going to play for them. Tyler Newman, they drafted a second-round pick. He's going to play. Belton is that third guy for them. Now, he does have good ball skills, and that's why he's been able to get turnovers, every single year as a New York Giant. So I think you'll see that with him. But I also, I thought it was kind of funny that I think Dane Belton is going to be the biggest beneficiary of Jameis Winston being on the team because he's a second-string safety against a second-string quarterback who's going to throw a ton of picks in practice. So Dane Belton's it's going to be the summer of Dane Belton with the hype that comes from. And what are you going to show me with this Javon Holland jersey?
Listen, I put my heart and soul into Holland. He's honestly my favorite player, still is, and I'm a secondary Giants fan. That's not my primary team. But, I don't want this jersey anymore, and I'm willing to give it to Andrew because I'm so sick and tired of this. It's every year with the Dolphins. They don't want to go out and get big names. It's the same with the Heat. And you know what? Andrew, I still have it there. I still have it.
He likes to rant about Miami sports every once in a while. That is a paper towel from when he touched Jimmy Butler at a Heat game, so you know.
Hey, I got a question. I'm in Central Florida, Vince. I'm on the East Coast as well. How the hell are you wearing a hoodie right now?
It's been pouring recently, man. These last 2 days have been a disaster.
I get the rain too, but it's still hot as hell.
Well, listen, I'm wearing a hoodie now, but I was in school today and it was just cold and rainy and.
Fair, they do keep the schools cold.
Yeah, I honestly wished I had my hoodie today in school, but to be honest with you, it's not that. It wasn't that bad outside. It's very humid. It's always humid. Honestly, I wear sweatpants out and it's just like a disaster. I can never do it now. So I think going forward to summer, I'm not going to do that, definitely. But that's why I like
anytime I travel out of Miami and you go and you experience some other place and then you land back in Miami, it's like you're getting punched in the face by the humidity as soon as you get outside.
When you land in Miami and you step outside MIA, it's just like a disaster. Like anywhere in Florida, but I'd say
it feels like it's pushing, like physically trying to push you over.
Yeah, you can feel that heat. Yeah, they bring heat.
I flew from the Caribbean to Miami to visit Vince for the first time this spring. And it felt so much worse in Miami than it did like in the Caribbean where it had just like thunderstormed and it was just awful out there. And then you step out of the Miami airport and I'm just like, all right, this is so much worse in every way. So, it is 80 and dry out here in Jersey right now. So I'll take it. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I think it's in the 70s today. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Wait, let me check this. Hold on. Sorry about getting off topic. Oh yeah, wait, no, what's today?
I think that's my fault.
No.
It's all right.
Cool. Oh, it's 80. It's raining. It's raining. No, yesterday was a disaster. Wait, I gotta show you guys this video. Hold on. Well, basically, I guess like one of my friends was coming back home from school, and like on the public bus, it was like a flood. It was flooding on the bus. It's pretty bad. It's like a hurricane season, man. I'm telling you. That's something.
That's why you get out of there and come up and visit me, Vince.
Yeah, listen, this is like the first summer I'm not going to be in Jersey the whole time, but I'm gonna miss being in Jersey the entire summer, but I feel like I don't know. At the same time, like I love Miami. I always love it a little more. Even though I love going down the shore. Going down the shore is fun.
Yeah, so while he starts to pull that up, I kind of want to go into the running back room while we're here. And I'm sure that this is going to be a topic that a lot of fans are going to have fun talking about this year. Scadaboo and Tyrone Tracy. And of course, they are two quite different running backs, in my opinion. You have Scadaboo, who is known for being whatever the opposite of a brick wall would be on the offensive side of the ball. And you see all the highlights, especially from the playoffs this year, where he is just running through guys. And then you have Tyrone Tracy, who last year came up as one of the shiftiest and fastest running backs in the league. And on top of that, you have Dart, who over his past 2 seasons with Ole Miss, I think last year, 495 rushing yards. He had 8 touchdowns in 2023 as well on the running side of the ball. How do you think the Giants are going to platoon those 3 guys to create a pretty effective running game?
Will be interesting because they drafted Scadaboo top of the 4th round, where Tracy was a middle of the 5th round guy, but obviously Tracy delivered for them last year, and then kind of puttered out towards the end of the season, where I think it had more to do with them having Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito as their quarterback. But like they didn't draft Scadaboo for no reason. Like they plan to play him and play him early. It'll be interesting to see how they do that split. I'm more interested less in the split and just what does Scadaboo look like as an NFL pro. Because he's a fun player to watch. He breaks all these tackles, right? After he was second in the nation with, yards after contact after Ashton Genty. But he is a 5'9" running back who plays like he's 6'2", and he doesn't have the athleticism of most 5'9", 5'10" backs in the NFL. It's just how does he translate to the NFL? Because watching him is electric. It's it's one of the most fun players to watch when you're doing draft prep, but fun doesn't always equal good. That's where I'm more interested within the running game, less so than the split. It's just how does Cam Scadaboo look as a pro?
Yeah, I really like Scadaboo. I'm not gonna lie to you. I told Andrew when they drafted him, I was like, look, like you guys got your guy for the future, in my opinion. I do think he will be the next coming of Saquon. I know it sounds a little stupid, but like I think when you take a look at just, for example, that Texas game where he went ballistic. I mean, you could say all season, but I just think that specifically that game, I mean, just amazing, balled out, showed he could play every single position on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not saying that's how it is in the pros, but like he showed he's athletic, like he is, and I do think like for the future, I mean, he can be a key guy for this offense. I'm not saying right now, but maybe in the future. I don't know. But
Well,
I prefer Tyrone Tracy for right now, in my opinion.
And I think we'll figure out early like what you have, or at least an idea of what you have in him, right? It's not like quarterback where you need to have patience and stuff. Where running back is you usually can get a taste of what you've got in that player right away. Like I'm trying to think of what's a rookie running back who played as a rookie, didn't play well, and then all of a sudden popped off. There's really not much examples. They all almost always do well as a rookie unless they're not getting playing time. So we'll see that with him. But it's just but I think it's really for the run game to be healthy. That offensive line's got to perform and be consistent because they had times where they look like a good run blocking unit and times where they look terrible. They need to find more consistency, not just so when they do run it works, but for them to feel more comfortable running the ball more often.
Yeah. And I just want to really talk about another. I would consider him now like more of like a role player, and he doesn't really contribute to the team as much since he's gotten drafted. But Jalen Hyatt, really quick, how can the third-year receiver get more involved with obviously Dart and Russell and all these new quarterbacks coming to the room? He actually connected for a deep touchdown on day 4, and when we look back at him in college, his main, I'd say, role was going deep, and we saw him and Hooker going deep ball after another one. And I think that's really where we saw him shine. My question is, can that be his finding in the NFL, or should they maybe, go a different route with him, or should they just keep him as more of like a deep threat type of guy?
I think that's all he is. One, they brought back Darius Slayton, which again, that he's not going to be a starter unless somebody's injured, and that's why he's getting run with the first team OTAs, is because Neighbors he's not injured, but they're just not practicing him the way they do other guys because they know what they have in him. Russell Wilson is the perfect quarterback for Jalen Hyatt, right? So there'll be exciting times with Jalen Hyatt. The issue is I think Jalen Hyatt is no more than a 400-yard maximum guy. All he does is win vertically, and when you can only do one thing in the NFL, you're just not going to get on the field enough to show off the one thing that you do well. So there'll be opportunities for him to make a play here and there, but I just don't see him ever being a consistent starting player in the NFL and specifically for the Giants. I think if there was any hope of that, they would have been willing to let Darius Slayton walk, after having him here for 6 years, and they made a priority to bring him back.
100%.
Yeah, so I kind of want to go more into Russell Wilson because, we've talked about all of the backups so far today. But in a recent press conference, he talked a lot about how Malik Neighbors was one of the main reasons for why he chose New York in free agency over some of the other teams that were potentially looking at him. And with Malik Neighbors, I think he had like some toe issue or something, but of course he's going to be a starter this season, so they're not going to have him playing as much in the first couple of days of OTAs. What do you think that connection is going to look like kind of as the season goes on, especially with the adjustment that Neighbors is now going to have to make to a more veteran QB?
I think Neighbors is going to be the least of their issues with adjustments because Neighbors is a wide receiver one on, like he's just a wide receiver one in the NFL. He's not like a fit with this team or a fit with this quarterback. It's just no matter who the quarterback is, he's going to be able to find Malik Neighbors. And you saw him play with Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito, and set rookie records that were broken by Brock Bowers later that day. But like set rookie records with those guys, have 10 catches, have 1,200 receiving yards. Again, with basically the worst quarterback play in the NFL, especially once they went to Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito. So
I'd say that belongs to the Dolphins in my opinion, but you can keep.
Oh yeah, you guys did have some pretty bad moments when you're playing Scott.
Man.
I remember, you see the scroller and it's whoever it was, Skylar Thompson or whoever's like 0 for 7 to start games.
I told Andrew, I was like, look, like, let's get Deion Sanders going. I remember we were on like a Dolphins.com show, or I forgot what we did, but we were talking about it. I was like, look, like, let's get Primetime calling up the Dolphins to see if we can get Shador. I really wanted Shador at quarterback, but obviously that didn't happen. But yeah, sucks.
Well, don't worry, you got two. He'll save the day with Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, I think we got to walk away from McDaniel, in my opinion. He's not the guy. But
it's a weird spot for them where it's like there's certain things that he's really good at, but are you limiting yourself with him as a coach? You kind of dress like Mike McDaniel a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I kind of realized that. I just don't got the pen with me, It's also not freezing outside, but yeah. Anyway, speaking about young receivers, OBJ did claim that he never wanted to leave the Giants, but, when we talk about that trade ended up leading to getting Giants defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence via the draft pick. So, was it really worth it in the end?
It's been worth it for years, even before Dexter Lawrence made the crazy jump that he did make. Odell got injured, right? He had 1,000-yard receiver for the Giants. I thought that trade was a win in the moment. You could tell that Odell felt like he was untouchable and was getting worse and worse with antics. The big one being going on an interview that aired the morning before a game without telling anybody on the Giants and basically trashing the franchise. So I was totally fine with them making that trade, and it worked out. It didn't just work out like, they won the trade, which I think they did basically all throughout the whole tenure of that deal. But once Dexter Lawrence became the player he was, it becomes one of the best trades the Giants have made in a long time. I mean, you look at just like what the results are on the Giants trades over the last 10 years, that might be the best one.
Yeah, and kind of as a 5 years younger Giants fan at the time, I wasn't too thrilled with that. I wasn't really looking at the game as analytically and more as a fan at that time, but it just kind of seemed like we were losing the guy on this offense who I was always using in Madden or like whatever and stuff like that.
Well, so listen, he was great, right? So it's not like I was like, oh, just get rid of OBJ and get nothing, but you could just tell that it was starting to become the beginning of the end of a guy who felt like he was bigger than everything else. and it was just it was better to move on early than late, because I think if they waited 2 years, the market for him would have been nowhere near what it was before. Hell, you can make an argument they should have done it a year before when the Rams offered 2 first-round picks.
Right. Yeah.
So it's again, Odell was an amazing player to watch. He's the Giants' best receiver of all time. Their best playmaker of all time. The reality, he was on pace for one of the best careers ever before he started getting injured, right? So I'm not trying to take anything away from Odell, but I just think it was good for them to get off early rather than late with him.
Yeah, 100%. So kind of one more stupid piece of news, and this is kind of just more, I want to get your opinion on it from just like a watcher of the NFL standpoint more than what it has to do with the Giants. But Deion Sanders, a current college coach, calling out pro teams for how his son's like interview went or whatever, just because Brian Dable said, he was unprepared and stuff like that. I just think that it doesn't make a lot of sense, and we saw then where Shedeur ended up falling to, and he hasn't really proven anything yet up to that point. So just what do you think about Deion coming in here and kind of trash talking a whole organization, head coach, just because of what happened in an interview?
I mean, I don't blame Deion for defending his son. He does a good job of spinning it, where he's like, "Who said my son, was wearing headphones into me?" It was like, I don't think anyone ever reported that. I think he was unprepared. It was a very specific thing. It wasn't to say that he never prepared for a game in his life. It was he wasn't prepared for those meetings. So it just kind of is what it is. Cleveland was, again, for Shedeur, as simple as just be good, and just, you know what. If you end up playing and end up being good, then that's the ultimate FU to everyone who passed up on you. But really, that's all that's left to do for Shedeur, though. You've been drafted by the team that wanted you, or didn't want you that much. So all that stuff is over. Now it's prove it. Right now it's the simple part, or supposed to be the simple part, which is playing the games. But again, it's I think where Cleveland may be a little in a weird spot is, they drafted a QB before him, and I don't think any of those QBs are going to play well. And then where's going to be the outside pressure from Deion? Where I think it'd be best for Deion to just kind of let his son play. And but the issue is, because he's doing the coach, he's going to get interviews and he's going to get asked questions, and Deion's going to say what he feels.
Yeah, 100%.
And I kind of want to just talk about another player who came out of college with, a lot of expectations. Being a Florida fan, I love Kyle Pitts. There was obviously a lot of rumors going on with, potentially him being traded to the Giants. But obviously with Theo Johnson and Bellinger already on the roster, is there really a need for that?
No. It's the Giants need to play with the team that they've put together. And Kyle Pitts' contract is not cheap either, because he's on that 5th-year option. Mm-hmm. So you already got a clear cap space. It just doesn't make sense for the Giants. You drafted Theo Johnson in the 4th round, year 2. You've paraded him as a win, so let him play. That's how they kept their jobs. Oh, well, look at Theo is really coming along. Okay, then show us. Don't trade for a tight end in Kyle Pitts. I also think Kyle Pitts is a very hard player to figure out. Is he going to be if he's not going to be the focal point of your offense, he's not the perfect fit, right? Where he's not going to line up in line and block. There's going to be times where there's flashes of greatness there, and I think he can make sense for the right team. But the Giants right now aren't that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just gonna say this. Look, Kyle Pitts. I really liked him coming out of college, but man, just seeing that first year and the year after that, and just from there, I was like, nah, there's no more hope for him. I honestly think his career is just a waste now. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it. But I don't think the Giants should even look at him at all. Stay younger.
Yeah, again, I think there's teams where it can make sense for them to go out and give it a shot. I just don't think the Giants are one of those, right? You could even look at the Patriots, right? See what happens with Stephon Diggs. They just need pass catchers for Drake May. There's other teams out there that it could make sense for. The Giants aren't one of those.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously saw the Dolphins go for Jonnu Smith, who was also a tight end on that Falcons team. I mean, he obviously was better than Kyle Pitts ever was, during that tenure. So I just think there's better players on that team, and we obviously, as a Dolphins fan, we found out that that was the truth. He ended up being a Pro Bowl type of player. So, in my opinion, I just think Kyle Pitts really just there's no need for him at all.
Right. Yeah. I'm on the same page.
Yeah, well, thank you so much to Bobby Skinner for joining us today on the 70th episode, a pretty historic episode of the Sports Coverage Podcast. Go check out, go check out the Giants Nation show, which Bobby has been working on for the past couple months. And, it's been really great to see some of the guests he's been able to get on all of the Giants coverage he's been doing. So go check that out. I don't know the exact handles, so if you just want to go through all those real quick.
Well, no one does because Twitter won't give me one more character. So on Twitter, it's at Giants Nation Pod. Everywhere else, it's at Giants Nation Show. But if you just type in Giants Nation Show, whatever you're looking for usually will pop up. So I appreciate you guys jumping or letting me jump on with you, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, and let's hope we can figure out and meet up at training camp or something like that. And
sounds good.
Yeah. Well, let's go Giants. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Sports Coverage Podcast. Like and subscribe on YouTube, audio only on Spotify, and clips and everything else over on the Instagram. Thank you again, Mr. Skinner, for joining us, and we'll see you next week.